All right guys, I'm Jake with East Coast Polishing over here at Renegade Products USA's facility. So right here, I'm gonna be going over our entire start on what I use when I polish. So the typical machine that I'm gonna pick up and recommend to anyone that's gonna wanna get into the industry, starting out, figuring it out, is gonna be your 3500 machine. Personally myself, I'm not brand specific. I don't care if you're looking at a variable speed machine that is going to be Makita, the Bauer, the Walt, or any off-name brand. The big thing is having the variable speed. So the number one reason is safety. When you pick up a 6K grinder is gonna have a lot of violency to it. It's gonna have a lot of kick to it. And the number one thing is it's really only good for cutting. When it comes to polishing, it's all about different speeds and variations. I'm gonna go over that on which speeds we use the buffs at. The only reason you'll see a professional like me using the 6K grinder typically is just for the thing of proficiency. There's some situations with stainless steel and some other things that I prefer 6K, but it did also take me about a year of buffing to get comfortable to the point where I could physically control that to give a good cut. I truthfully don't believe anyone can just go pick up a 6K grinder and they're gonna have the control, the muscle strength back there to be able to control it and do an accurate, good, clean cut on a piece of metal. The 3500 is definitely the machine that you're gonna wanna handle. So coming in here, typically the way I'm gonna start cutting is at 3,500 RPMs, I'm gonna be taking my orange double stitch buff. These buffs do come with two options. There's different sizes. You can go with different flanges. You can do flanges or centerless. Typically myself, I'm a centerless guy. A lot of people always ask me, why am I going with the centerless flange? The centerless flange for me seems to be a little more balance productive. I feel like it does have a better balancing. I also feel it's a lot quicker and safer for me. For me, it's a quick, easy lock on, lock off the buff, no dealing with a little nut. They are a little bit pricey, so if you are a beginner, it's not a necessity thing to spend money on. You can look into just using the nut if you don't plan to do this every day. And if you end up falling in love with it, it's not the end of the world to switch over to the centerless. With the centerless flanges, I do tell people all the time, if you do look at them, it's pretty easy to actually pop them out of your buffs. So if you stock up on centered buffs, no big deal either way. But anyways, I'm gonna start out at 3,500 with my orange. I'm going to rake this buff. I'm gonna take my brown 121 Triple E compound, and this is what's gonna go on that buff at 3,500 RPMs to cut out my sanding marks, which will be anywhere from 600 grit to 800 grit. Again, personal preference, we're gonna talk about that in a bit. From there, I'm gonna step down to my color. Now, there's a lot of different ways to color, and the great thing about Renegade is we have such a variety of products. Now, me at East Coast, typically the bar that I'm going with as my color is my Q36. Q36 I like pairing up with my yellow buff, or sometimes I'll actually pair up with a white untreated. It's all personal preference, depends what product I'm working on and what kind of environment I'm in. For the environment I'm in with the humidity and the heat and everything today, I'm gonna go with the yellow, and I'm gonna use this to color. My reason being that I like the Q36 as more of my color rouge is just for the simple reason being that I can also cut with this bar. This bar was designed to be a one-step bar meant to just cut metal and you're able to go. And it does work very proficient for that. Me personally in-house though, I just typically like my 121. I feel like it's a little more efficient for myself. But this bar works excellent for the simple being that if I do find, let's say on my metal, I have a little sand mark left in one area, I'm able to still cut it out. With your conventional green color rouge, you're not able to typically color it out. Now the speeds that this can be run at with either a yellow or a white for your color steps, you want to keep it below 2,600 RPMs. Typically you can go from 2,000 to 26. Again, it's really going to depend on what type of piece you're working on, and it really comes down to personal preference. Me on a piece like this, I'm going to be doing on a flat section top piece, I'm probably going to be around 2,600, and the really big importance to it is keeping it tight. All my passes, when you do see that throughout this video, I'm gonna be very tight as I move up this. That way I don't create any kind of striping or any crazy kind of haze. Now to finish out my entire process and what's gonna give you that incredible finish is gonna be your purple. Now this buff is a untreated flannel airway. The purple is definitely my favorite finish bar. I feel like it's very wet. It does have a slight cut factor to it, but this bar is typically my go-to finish bar for almost any kind of product I'm working on. This buff again can be run at a lot of different speeds for finishing. Finishing, you want to stay anywhere below 1,800 RPMs. For if I'm doing out certain pieces, I'm at 1,800. Anything with kind of intricate, any spokes, any edges to grab, I'm going to slow down around 1,400 and let this buff kind of pan out so it doesn't catch and I won't screw up my finish at all. Those are the general cut buffs. That is from the cut buff down to the finish buff, speeds, and how I use them.